Hey y'all, and welcome to another episode of the Random Smash Facts series. The series where you come to learn new things that make you smile. So if you want to see a crazy triple quadruple jump glitch with Steve, or an invisible ceiling glitch with Corrin, or just facts about the short hop and full hop aerial multipliers, be sure to stick around and enjoy. And we're going to start off with that Steve thing, because it's been a hot minute since we last talked about him. You've probably seen some stuff about him, how sometimes specific weird interactions with his blocks can cause you to teleport somewhere or get KO'd instantly or whatever. You know, tons of wacky stuff about this dude. But I'd like to go over a very recent discovery that caught my eye before that gets patched out. I first saw this on Twitter from YonnyFRFX, which was built upon by several others regarding a new technique that gives Steve an extra jump. Now, the basic idea behind this technique is pretty simple in concept. It seems that if Steve's electro animation gets cancelled 7 or less frames after it starts, that just stores within him an extra jump. So if the electro animation gets interrupted at any point during its first 7 frames, bam, you'll have an extra jump. But if it's been out for 8 or more frames, interrupting it won't give you this extra jump. So it seems that after frame 7, something about the move changes, though we'll get into that more later. But that's not the only thing that changes. See, in these examples, we're seeing the aerial version of the Elytra. Even though Steve was just on TNT, he fell off it the moment it activated, thus making him airborne. I point this out because the animations of Elytra are different between using it on the ground and using it on the air. See, Steve has a bit of a takeoff animation when he uses it on the ground. You can tell when the move has truly started when you see this flash effect happen. This flash is instantly visible for the aerial version, and only visible after 5 frames for the grounded version. As such, if the grounded version of the move gets interrupted sometime within these first 5 frames, nothing special will happen. So rather than the window being the first 7 frames like it is for the aerial version, it's specifically frames 6 through 12 for the grounded version. So if you're just interested in doing this, all you need to know is that if Steve's up special gets interrupted sometime near the beginning, he'll have more jumps afterwards. So no, the TNT here isn't mandatory, it's just a pretty reliable way of setting it up. Any type of interruption will do this. Now, consistently getting this to happen is actually pretty easy with the TNT, but I'm not entirely sure how useful it is. I guess it could throw the opponent off for sure. And I also guess it could help if you're getting juggled and can't quite outmaneuver the opponent. You know, you could try and get the extra jump by using Elytra right before getting hit, but you could also just build or air dodge. Or this bug will just get patched out anyways. I don't know, it's still really interesting though. But I'm personally very interested in how this is all happening and what exactly is going on. I put a lot of testing into this and found a lot of different things to consider. Like when you see here that Steve jumps twice in the air, it makes you think he's got a triple jump. Because normally characters in the air only have one jump at their disposal, called their double jump. Regardless of whether or not they use their grounded first jump to get into the air in the first place. So a character like Steve having 2 aerial jumps puts him in the same category as someone like Charizard now, right? But I feel like that's almost misleading to call this a triple jump. That's why I avoided using this in the title. Here, watch this scenario play out. I use my grounded jump to, well, get off the ground, and then I use my first aerial jump here, which is my double jump. Then I do everything needed to activate this special triple jump, getting my Elytra cancelled and all that. Now, I've already used one of my aerial jumps before getting hit. So if all this glitch did was give you a triple jump, that would mean I only have one more left to use, right? But what really happens is, I have 2 jumps now. But if I do this without burning my first aerial jump, I don't get 3 aerial jumps, I still only get 2. So to me, it seems that the action of interrupting Elytra like this doesn't just give Steve a certain number of jumps, but rather it restores whatever jump count Steve usually has. So wait, then why 2 jumps? It's not normal for Steve to jump twice in the air. And I don't have any concrete answers, but allow me to theorycraft here for a bit. What if in these first 7 frames, the Elytra puts Steve in a pseudo-grounded state? And after this, he's put into a, I don't know, less pseudo-grounded state. This could explain why it always defaults to 2 jumps when you interrupt it properly, because when you're on the ground, you have 2 jumps. There's not much to go off in the game's script. For example, the grounded version of the move has this unknown execution happening specifically on frame 6, and it only happens for Steve and it only happens on the grounded version? We can do simple math here and put together that this script is probably what makes the grounded version go from not takeoff to takeoff, as indicated by this flash effect, which happens, as you know, on frame 6, which echoes the difference between the grounded electro and aerial electro as we mentioned before. But I haven't been told of any special code after this point. All it really tells me is something interesting is going on starting here for the grounded version and, at the default start for the aerial version, as indicated by this flash effect. Since after frame 7, when this glitch stops working, the flash effect begins to disappear. So I do believe this glitch, it might be somehow tied to this flash effect, whatever it means. But another thing to consider is in regards to this smoke effect. It's a bit faint, and we have gone over this on the channel before, but just to reiterate. If any character is in the air with no available jumps, this smoke effect will follow them wherever they go until they either land or somehow get their jump back. Now, for any character that I can think of, like Young Link here, that's just how it works. If they don't have a jump, this smoke effect will follow even if they use their up special. This is even true for a recovery like Peach's, which doesn't technically end after it's used, the smoke will still follow. But for some reason, when Steve uses his recovery after he's all out of jumps, there's no smoke. Now, of course, if the move gets interrupted well after frame 7, he doesn't get more jumps or anything, since the smoke returns in this case. But it makes me think that the move is putting Steve in some sort of very unique state where he isn't necessarily without a jump like other characters are. And perhaps for these first 7 frames of its startup, it fails to initiate some kind of code that says, okay, so he's not really grounded. So if you interrupt that, the game just doesn't know that he's not really grounded. Of course, a lot of this is still hypothetical though, so tell me your thoughts in the comments. And if you're only interested in potentially using this tech until they, probably patch it out soon, then just know that you're not necessarily getting an extra jump as much as you are just having your jump meter restored to as it was as if you were grounded. Which is why you can't really store these jumps after you land, because once you land, you are grounded. And thus nothing really changes except for the fact that the state the game considers you to be in is now actually right. Oh yeah, and one final detail to point out is that you can keep doing this over and over again before Steve lands. Once he's run out of these newly refreshed jumps, he can interrupt the electro again to get them back. And again. And again. And of course the same rules apply as before, where he always ends up with just 2 jumps, so they can't really stack if you keep on cancelling it. But yeah, he can just keep on jumping over and over again, hypothetically forever, without ever touching the ground once. There is one more thing I want to mention regarding Steve before we move on. And it's from Martial Art giving me a fact about Steve's blocks in the bullet bill item. It's the type of thing that's obvious in retrospect, but it's still fun to point out. But Steve's blocks are real solid ground, and thus the bullet bill will actually change its trajectory based around them. That's only if you go into them at an angle though. If you slam into them in a perpendicular manner, you'll obviously just crash and explode. But this in and of itself is actually pretty good. For those of you who don't know, a good tech with a bullet bill is to not just run into the opponent, but to get close and use it into the ground. This way you get the bullet bill hit and the explosion, which does way more damage. So if we add blocks to this tech, we can sort of dictate exactly where the bullet bill will be able to explode or go or anything like that, which creates a little course for the bullet bill, which is really cool. And since we're talking about bullet bill tech, another thing I see people not know about is how you can actually reflect the bullet bill. Yes, even though the bullet bill is technically you, it's still considered a projectile and thus can be reflected by things like the Franklin badge and Ness's bat. And holy cow, does that do a lot of damage. No knockback though, just raw damage. Franklin badge does less of course, but still. I don't exactly know where that damage is coming from. Maybe when it gets sent back it almost runs into itself or something? Either way though, it's a very viable option. And in doing so, it'll make the bullet bill be owned by whoever reflected it, like how that normally works. And it does do more damage in this state, equal to whatever the person inside the bullet bill took. And it can be really devastating. Now of course it can't be pocketed, so the move is still a bit more unique in that regard, but yeah, you should keep this in mind for sure, since it's not immediately obvious that this is considered a projectile. Now let me be real with y'all for a bit. These are the types of facts I sometimes have a hard time showing off. Since to me, this is a pretty obvious one, I've known about this for a long time. But the thing about this game, with how casual its audience can be, is that there aren't any obvious details. Every video I make, even some small detail I didn't specify because I thought it was super obvious, might get pointed out as new information to someone. Everyone's gotta learn something for the first time somewhere, so if you take anything away from this video, it's that what you consider to be common sense about this game just might be completely and reasonably unknown to someone. I swear one of my least favorite comments is, how did you not know that before? Not that it makes me mad, but it's like, well, I just didn't know it before, bro. Anyhow, enough of that. Next up, Sonic Blast mentions an odd glitch regarding Corrin's pin when the game is slowed down. That is, if you slow training mode speed down and set your opponent at high percent, they'll react really weird to Corrin's pin. Either they'll just shift really far in position, or they'll be launched, then fall straight down. Almost like they're hitting their head on some kind of invisible ceiling, which in my opinion is way more amusing. Which of these two they'll do seems to vary depending on how slow training mode is and what the opponent's percent is, but essentially the higher their percent, the wackier things will be. My guess is that when training mode is slowed down, the property of Corrin's pin that keeps the opponent, well, pinned, doesn't get applied immediately or something. Though it doesn't happen with the timer slowdown or anything like that, which seems to be the case with a lot of these slowed down training mode glitches. Also, this does stack with size change, so a small Mewtwo will get launched even further, and a large Corrin pin with this sends them super far, almost to the side blast zone. It's kinda nuts. I mean, just look at this stupid combo I made. I had a fun time posting this on Twitter to see what the reactions were. Using niche techniques and combos was how I used to show them off to the public, before I found this format of video. I gotta say, I kinda prefer just saying the technique. It's a bit easier and, actually shows you what's going on, but hey, this is pretty funny too sometimes. Moving on, Excalibur Emerald asks what happens when you short hop dare off an opponent as someone like Simon. In this game, your aerials will do slightly more damage depending on whether you short hopped or full hopped beforehand. As we can see here, the short hop forward air will do 12.2% to Ridley, and a full hop forward air will do 14.4%. The question asks, if you short hop down air Ridley and bounce off of him like this, are you still considered to be in the short hop state? And considering his forward air does 12.2% even after the bounce, that means yes, you are still considered to be in the short hop state. This is pretty interesting because the down air that's similar to them, Greninja's, doesn't work like this. His short hop forward air does 14.2% and the full hop does 16.8%. And after a short hop down air, his forward air does 16.8%, meaning he's considered to be in the full hop state here. So the Belmonts are pretty unique in this sense. Now there were some other things I wanted to test regarding this whole short hop full hop aerial mechanic. First, a big one, if you double jump, even if you short hopped first, you'll still be considered to be in the full hop state, and thus do that bonus damage. Next, if you get launched, you'll just default to being in the full hop state, dealing that extra damage. And going into the air with the bullet bill considers you to be in the full hop state as well, as does using the jetpack, even though you still have your double jump. And actually, now that we're talking about jumps again, it kind of makes me want to test a certain little glitch we know. The damage of Steve's wooden forward air is the same as Simon's actually, 12.2% for the short hop and 14.4% for the full hop, so that's pretty convenient. And when we do the glitch to get into our extra jump situation, our forward air does 14.4%. So it's either that the full hop version of the aerial is just the default version of it, so even if Steve's technically grounded here, it doesn't matter because he never short hopped or something like that, or something else is happening. But nah, I think that first explanation is what's actually happening here, because everything that puts you in the air seems to make you be in this full hop state. So I guess the short hop is what's more unique here, and the full hop is just the default. Also, apparently the fixed damage toggle doesn't actually apply to you. Now, I've known about this for a while, but since I used fixed damage for the testing, I figured I'd mention it here. It's kind of weird that there's no way to apply fixed damage to yourself, so I guess if you need to test something like that, you'll have to take control of the CPU, which can be a bit of a pain. Anyhow, I think that'll be it for today's wacky video. I'd like to thank my glorious patrons Sashanks, Burbo, Hobo King Niklz, Raighne, BG, Danplay, Feurolant, Parade Dino, Skully, Glaceon, Jigs, Keko the Dragon, Meep, Sky, and Stan Luna. The channel's been seeing a bit more variety lately compared to usual, what with a few new series and more off videos and stuff. I hope y'all keep sticking around despite all that, and I'll keep supplying various types of videos. Sometime in the future I might even make content for non-Smash games, that isn't music of course. You can say. Probably at least for Breath of the Wild 2, whenever that happens. I'm definitely gonna try and make a video for that. I mean, I just gotta, right, you know? So how have things been for everyone? I pushed myself a bit hard this month, so I might be a bit easier on the uploads for May, especially since I'm finally fully vaccinated. Might actually start, doing things. Of course, still in moderation. But June is going to be a fun month, huh, I imagine. E3 is coming back with Nintendo actually dipping their toes in the action. I'm expecting Zelda stuff, I know they said that last time, but man, come on, they gotta do Zelda stuff soon, right? Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely streaming for sure. They're probably going to be doing a Smash reveal, if they don't do that like earlier. So that's another thing to look forward to. Regardless, last summer was a major bust, so while we're still not exactly in the clear yet, I'm looking forward to this upcoming summer. So keep your chins up, y'all. Keep yourselves happy. Anyhow, with all that, stay motivated, stay casual, and I'll see y'all later.